Welcome. I'm Graydon, and this has been Buster. By Watch Review Budget Bin Movies for you. Today, whew, I have a movie for you guys. Something to talk about today. This movie is a documentary, a heart wrenching documentary at that. And in fact, with this movie, I just can't do it justice talking with it by myself. So I got somebody who's kind of into this world a little bit more than I am. Because as you guys know, I'm just a movie guy. I love movies and I love comic books. They're all right back there behind me. But this guy here is co-host of the Outrage Zone podcast right here on YouTube. And I thought bringing him in to talk about this movie, since he's in the world of professional wrestling a lot more than I am, would be beneficial for this review. If you haven't figured it out, what we're talking about today is Bray Wyatt Becoming Immortal, the new documentary that WWE produced that just came out on Peacock. So, without further ado, let me introduce you to my guest today. He's none other than a good friend of mine. He is Dango from the Outrage Zone podcast. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing okay. How are you today, Graydon? I know you just finished watching it, so I watched it a
Yeah,
couple days ago, so
yeah,
I've got
yeah,
a couple days under
yeah,
me
yeah,
to like
yeah.
reflect.
Exactly, exactly. Like I do with most of my reviews here. I usually watch it right before I do the review because it's fresh in the mind.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
smart.
yeah. So for those of you that don't know, Bray Wyatt was I would say, prolific entertainer in the WWE. Even
Oh
though
yeah,
for a short career he had, he was very prolific. He brought something to the foreground that hadn't been seen up to that point, but also hadn't been seen since. What I'm talking about is he brought the horror aspect and made it work very well into the world of
very
professional
very
wrestling.
like a real life movie aspect, like a
Exactly.
real.
It was I agree. You don't get me wrong, you have had guys like The Undertaker, the Boogeyman, Papa Shango before, but they were all just like Undertaker started
Mhm,
as a real Undertaker and they were just kind of a parody of something.
mhm,
Undertaker was, oh, look, I could do this or that. But this
mhm.
is the first time we actually had somebody who was surreal.
Yeah,
And not just in their promo, but character presentation. Like legitly went out there and made sure every T was crossed, every I was dotted for this character. And it's sad that Wyndham Rotundo, um, aka Bray Wyatt, is no longer with us. And this documentary, if you haven't seen it yet, I recommend you watching it. Even if you're not a wrestling fan, it's a story of about man and his creativity.
yes, and
Basically.
it's basically the story of basically two brothers. If you
It
got to
is.
get technical, because Taylor Rotunda, also known as Bo Dallas slash Uncle Howdy, basically confirming he was the Uncle Howdy behind the mask, which is everyone knew, but it was just one
Yeah.
of those things where it's like, yeah, they finally told us, but you can tell, like, I got so much more respect from Bo Dallas from this
Mhm.
documentary.
Oh yeah. And not just that, but more respect out of his father and his family too.
Oh yeah.
Because there's that scene in that movie towards the end there, it's like whenever they would talk about me, it was always your family did this or your dad did this, your uncles did this.
Mhm.
But when I won the big one, when I won the WWE championship, I got the paragraph. I was the first paragraph and I got it about that. So he accomplished something that no one else in his family did. He won that big one, which
Oh
was
yeah.
a testament to his creativity because there's no way, like you even watching here, and even Triple H was like, for those of you that don't know, Paul Levesque, Triple H is the creative guru, CEO, COO of the WWE currently. And at this time when this happened, he was creative over NXT, their developmental territory.
Mhm.
He let he let Wyndham go hog wild with this character. He goes, I have to ring you in certain spots, but it's yours. Go for it. And he could actually see that for once, this is a guy who, like The Undertaker, was always protective of his characters. But you can always tell that Bray had a story to tell, no matter
Mhm.
which persona he was. He always had a story to tell. And you don't see that a lot anymore. Even in movies like that, your characters are not as flushed out as this is. And Bray's characters, even though they were only around for what, maybe 6 months at the most, besides the original incarnation of Bray,
Mhm.
like the Fiend was only what, according to that, was like 8, 9 months. the whole
Yeah.
Fiend character and Firefly Funhouse in there. They so in that time span, he told a story, he told a character, and that's what I loved about this. Now, because you felt that his brother, his wife, his family had a say in how they put this together.
Even his
You could tell.
ex-wife. Even his
Yeah.
ex-wife.
Exactly. Yeah, even his ex-wife. You could tell that's why I said family together. So, but it was also you could see that they had their hands in this. Like we want something that he would be proud of if he were to watch it himself, and you could tell that it's like even the wrestlers that they had that were being interviewed, you could tell like even John Cena goes, I was along for the ride. Like we had this match. And he's like, I have no idea what this match is. The Firefly Funhouse match. He goes, I had no idea what this is. In the height of COVID, they put on probably what was by far one of the goofiest, but also one of the best cinematic matches I've ever seen.
And plus, like Dylan from World Elite said it great last night on his or on Tuesday on his podcast because I don't know when this is gonna drop. So he said like he had more in depth and more respect for that match because it showed you in the documentary of them filming scene by scene by scene by scene.
And they even showed you. I loved how they showed you how they filmed the scene where the Fiend's pinning John Cena in the ring and Bray is counting.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I love that. I'm going, that was probably CGI. They probably did Bray just as Bray doing that. But no, it was actually him sitting there with Cena laying down so he could get this placement right. 1, 2, 3. And then it was him wearing whole Fiend get up, pitting Cena. So that way they just would have to put Cena just laying there. Cena was the mark for that scene. So it was like, hey, Cena, you just lay here. We're going to do this again for this. Here you go. It was like, I agree with Dylan from World Elite Podcast. If you haven't checked his stuff out, check them out. They talk sports, they talk wrestling. Those guys over there are fantastic as well. I'll put the links for them and for you guys, Dango, down in the description too. But I mean, there's nothing really to talk about. Like, no, most of the time is everyone knows who watches this. When I do a review, I go through movie, I go from beginning to end. There's really not much more. Well, like it shed a light on a lot of stuff. Like you said right before we began, oh, you look like you were crying. I was tearing up, and honestly, that's a good documentary there.
Oh yeah, when it gets you to laugh, cry, and like do all the emotions, like get all the emotions out of you. The scene that really got me, if spoiler alert, is the scene at the end with the daughters. I think that scene was the one. That was the scene that
with his $3 and his son. Yeah.
Yep, the one at the end where they're all talking about their dad. Outside.
Yeah, how each one is what Wyndham was.
You could see them in them.
And it's you can.
And it was weird and cool at the same time.
What really got me was when all of a sudden here he is at the height again upon his return, and then all of a sudden the health scare happened.
Yep.
The bout with COVID, and then Taylor getting the call, and him being told you need to be the strong one for all of us. And it's like he's like the one who's probably losing it the most.
Yeah, because he just got his comeback. He just was able to.
Yeah,
he just was able to get on this wild ride with his brother.
Yes,
with the return,
and something they said he had a lot of fun doing, and I love the fact that WWE showed the eulogy, showed some of the funeral for it, showed Bo or Taylor and their sister Micah talking about Bray and his work and who he was as a person. Like I remember Micah saying in there about the book that their father was writing, and he wanted them to talk about their family life. She's like, oh boy, they weren't sure what Bray would go with it, but they go, Bray told a story, and it was so totally. He goes, it was so totally Wyndham that it's going to stay so totally Wyndham in there. And what got me was when they talk about his heart issue that he had that happened. Little does anyone know, even on this channel, in 2019, September of 2019, so about a month before COVID hit, I was in the hospital for a week, 10 days, 7 to 10 days, fighting for my life. It turns out I had AFib. So I have a heart defect. So I have that heart thing going on too. So you know what's funny? How in this movie he was what was he, like 36 when it happened?
Yeah.
2019 was 5 years ago. I'm going to be 40 this year. So I
You
was
were
like
you
35,
you were
36. So
36.
I was right around the same. It would happen on my birthday. Right
Wow.
around my birthday. So yeah. So it was like, oh, okay. So happy birthday to me. But that's what really got me, because I saw that aspect of me. I saw what would like I was laying there, no test, every test the doctors were doing were not giving us answers. So it's like, what's going on? Like, and
Mhm.
I was married is still married, but my wife was worried about me. I'm like, honey, just work. Just work. Don't worry about me. I have my mom here with me, so just work. I want your mind off of this. And so we had a friend who always just texts. If he calls, something's up. So it's just a text. So she got a phone call from him, and he's told her what happened. She's like, "Oh no, oh no," like. And then throughout that process, that's what really got me in this movie, is because I've been there. I've been at there. Yes, I'm breathing right now to talk about it, but I was there. I know the feelings that family was going through,
Do
because
you have a
I've seen it.
defibrillator in you?
No, no.
You did not have
It was,
needing to.
no, I did not have to go that. It wasn't that severe.
That's good.
As it turns out, it was probably, believe it or not, COVID. Before it even hit.
Wow.
So it was about a month
Months.
before, because that weekend before that it happened, I was like breathing fine, and then all of a sudden I just felt like had walking pneumonia. And then all of a sudden, a couple days later, that Tuesday, I ended up in the hospital. So it's like,
Okay, so you had like
something.
one of the first cases of.
Yeah, yeah. Before, if it was even that, even if it was that, I don't know. But it was funny that it happened a month before that even hit. But you see, that's what really got me, was that aspect, and then
You
just
said it
seeing.
happened in February of 2020. You said.
No, September of 2019.
Okay, so and then COVID hit and COVID started getting American rounds in December.
Yes, yes.
So like couple months before, not
Yeah, a
like a
couple.
month.
No, no, no,
Yeah,
no. A couple months before, yeah. So
yeah,
before everything
mhm,
shut down,
yeah.
before it came over here,
You got
yes.
like 5 more months before it shut down.
Yeah, yeah, but that happened, and I like, honestly, when he was wrestling, I didn't really care for the character much. I liked the original incarnation, the swamp, the guy from the swamp with his family,
Okay, the
the
cult.
the cult leader. I just didn't care for the more supernatural things. But that's me. Like, my horror movie style of stuff is like Edgar Allan Poe style stuff. It's not necessarily the more supernatural stuff. It's more like, hey, here's a jump scare. Ah, so I can respect his storytelling from the aspect of liking movies, liking comic books, and how gradually a process is of creating an actual real good story.
Oh yeah.
So yeah,
I like them showing both sides. I like
mhm,
them showing the supernatural side of
yes,
how much he hated the flame version, the one that no one liked, the one of him on fire,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
and
how
how the suit was so horrible to
walking, you could
wrestling,
tell that that was a
walking.
Vince
Yeah,
idea.
yes. Well, I can understand the mask of it looked like the Bray just wanted the mask. That's what it looked like. He just wanted that to be charred and melted. But
Yeah.
you cannot have it without. Well, what about the clothes? The clothes would have been burned too. Like, okay, like you could have easily just done his actual gear, just set like a torch to his actual gear that way. You didn't have to make him go through all that. Like, incorporate the gel that he had to put on the rubber white suit underneath that costume. I'm like, you could just easily burn the clothes that he was wearing and made it
Mhm.
look legit that
Oh
way
yeah.
too.
Yeah. That was dumb for the way that they did that.
Yeah. Yeah. But
On
I enjoyed I enjoyed the sneak peek. I really enjoyed the aspect of how they were explaining who the Rutenos were. From
yes.
Blackjack Mulligan all the way on down. Like that was cool. So if you did not know who they are, they're Bray and Bo are third generation wrestlers in their family. So
Yeah.
their dad married into the Mulligan Wyndham family. So married into that family. So when he met his wife,
Mhm.
she was a sister of his tag team partner of Barry Windham. So she was she was the sister of the Wyndham brothers back in the day. So Wyndham came from her maiden name, which I really liked. That was a thing of here's the two families coming together under, and here's the baby
Mhm.
for that. So kind of like that, and it's like, and how Bray didn't really want to be in wrestling to begin with.
Oh yeah.
Like he liked the sport and everything, but until Bo, or I'm using the wrestling names, until Bo came in and got his start. He's like, "Oh, I want to do this now because you're here doing it with me." So
Oh yeah. Just like Bo felt bad when he broke his ankle because Wyndham was off trying to make it in the football world, which you understand that because you were a football
yes,
player, right?
yes,
So you had that respect of Bray for
yeah,
offensive linemen.
because he didn't want his he didn't want Bray to show up until he made it to the finals in the tournament. He goes, "I don't want you here until so that way I don't like that way it's about me and it's not about your legacy or who you are." And he goes, "I want you there and I want you to do that." So so that's the thing. He did that way, and when he broke his ankle, his brother was waiting for him, and just like he said, he just gave me a great big hug. Said it's going to be okay. That he was proud of him,
Mhm.
nonetheless, and so that just speaks to the type of person, and you can even see it in their stories too, of who he was, because you get
Oh yeah, he
you
hated every gimmick. I feel like just like he hated like the husky
yeah
Harris.
he
Like they,
yeah
I love how they
I
went through.
yeah
I
I
love how
loved
they
how they
went
went
through
through that.
that.
Mhm.
Like you had to go through that to get through this. I think
You
WWE did so much more. If you love this one, watch either the Kurt Angle one or Cody Rhodes. The
okay.
Cody both ones made by the same. The last couple that they've done off Peacock has done with WWE with
Mhm.
these have been fantastic. I think
So
they've been
so
taking like those old WWE Network
yeah
365 ones
yeah.
and like multiplying it by like 10.
What got me into it, got me invested to it, is when they said narrated by Mark Calloway, The Undertaker. I'm going, wow. I'm like, this is. I'm like Undertaker, and then when they got to his story with Bray, which I always thought that WrestleMania Bray should have went over Undertaker. It just felt like the typical passing of the torch moment right there
Mhm,
from one is kind of the same gimmick to another person who's
mm,
just taking that gimmick and making it his own. And I always thought Taker should have lost that Mania 31
mhm.
to Bray. I thought Bray should have been the guy who beat him,
And the
who
end
ended
streak.
the streak, and it would have made the most sense. Honestly,
Yes.
storytelling wise, it would have made the most sense.
Mhm.
But that didn't happen. But I just love how Mark said in there too that he started becoming a mentor to Bray and everything in the business, and how he goes, and when he's sitting there at the end during the credits scene, you see him pour the two cups of Jack Daniels, one for him and one for Wyndham, and he cheers it. You see him drinking, you see him put down. He goes, "I was there. I saw him grow up." So I know, like when I got the news, I felt it like his parents did because I watched him grow up. Because he goes, I had a career where I wrestled his dad, and then I wrestled him. He goes, I can't say that with a lot of people.
Yeah.
So he was able to do that. And he goes, he was like a son. Like you could see that Taker when he was doing it, when they did that behind the scenes of him doing the narration, that was actually hard on him too. So he probably felt Wyndham was kind of like a son to him. Which you get a lot of this. It's like they felt everyone who worked with him was like, I'm different. What also got me was the whole John Huber, Luke Harper thing. I started losing it then.
Yes, those were the parts where I got it too.
And then when they did you notice how they kind of left Eric Rowan? How they kind of left Rowan off until after they started talking about Bray and his death? Because he talked about Harper for a little bit. Then after that, he wasn't in any of the other interviews up until they talked about Bray's death, and you could just see that him knowing that he lost two close friends of his, two brothers of his, well within a year of each other was just so
him and
hard on him.
Strowman.
You could tell like they were breaking down during those interviews, and I loved because most documentaries like this, when you get that emotional, they edited it out. They do that. I gotta give that to WWE for keeping that in because that's raw, real emotion.
The family gave a lot of credit for having them all cry in this documentary. It's one of those things where you're surprised how much WWE pushed it.
Exactly, and considering he's not necessarily a legend like we view it in that terminology in regards to wrestling.
Mhm.
He's not a Hulk Hogan. He's not a John Cena. He's not The
No,
Rock.
he's not a big
Stone
name.
Cold.
He's not
He's
a
not
big
a
enough
big
name.
but
He's not he's not a mainstream media name.
yes,
He
yes,
would have
he's
been
not.
if he stayed longer. He would have been.
Yeah.
He would have been a horror guru, not horror actor. He
Kind of
probably
kind of like how Raven's synonymous with hardcore, but he
Yes.
really, but he really did not invent the style. But he
Yeah.
was very synonymous with it,
Mhm.
and even the grunge aspect of that, and how you've seen a lot of characters even emulate his style of stuff too. So it's like, but I gotta give it to him. Like he made, like they even mentioned it in the documentary that he made the split personality gimmick work.
Oh yeah.
When Foley did it, it was kind of like, hey, there are three different characters of mine, but yet it was kind of like you saw that Cactus Jack was a more unhinged version of
I'm
Mankind.
surprised you didn't really like the Fiend as much. I feel like you liked more of the Firefly Funhouse type version of him. Like
Yes.
like the Pee-wee's Playhouse. The Pee-wee's Playhouse.
I loved when I first saw Bray that way. I'm like, oh, this is the way they're going with Bray. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be awesome. And then all of a sudden the Fiend showed up. I'm going, but
you
I
gotta,
really, yeah, I really enjoyed though how they went in and explained the characters of that too. Well, like we
Yes.
all know Huskus was Husky Harris. We all know
Yes.
that. The pig was that. That the vulture, that Waylon, the vulture was actually Waylon Mercy.
Which,
And yeah, which is what his first gimmick was based off of.
yes, it's one of his who he considers one of his great mentors.
Mhm.
Or
And then
inspiration.
then we had what was it, Ramblin' Rabbit, who
It's
was
basically just fans.
Yeah, it was fans and critics saying, "Hey, you're rambling too much in your promos." But I think that was the thing. It was more so he was real, like the characters required him to do so.
Yeah,
kind of
I
like
think that
how
worked.
his last run there is like just telling you stories of him, and he was just being.
Mhm.
I was thinking that in his last run he would have said, I'm not Bray Wyatt. You know me as Bray Wyatt, but I'm Wyndham. I'm just Wyndham. I'm shocked he just didn't drop that in that place before everything happened. But I would be interested to know if Taylor knew where the whole Fiend thing was going, because as we learned in here, he had a very specific beginning, middle, and end he wanted to tell.
Yes,
A specific story he wanted to tell.
I feel like we're going to get it, but we're gonna get Taylor's rendition. That was definitely put in there on purpose. The ending.
Oh, either the ending, yeah.
The
Do you
ending
think
where Uncle Howdy comes back and picks up the lantern.
Yes, but I mean, honestly, I don't think he will be the Uncle Howdy character. I think he will be a new character that he learned something under his brother Bray.
Yes,
And that
I
this
think
whole thing freed him.
maybe he takes Uncle Howdy for the first couple times just so
Yeah.
he reappears, and
Yeah.
then maybe he becomes like his own version, like his own.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he opens up the Firefly Funhouse to himself. You
Yes.
bring back the Firefly, and he can do it himself.
like kind of on like what when he had his makeup artist, his special effects artist, the guy who made all his masks and his gear for him, like that final version of the Fiend that he was going to go with.
The
I
Ultimate
love,
Fiend,
yeah, I loved
the
how that
face in the
was.
back. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
yeah,
To
I was,
represent JoJo.
and his kids' names on his tights that were part of the pinstripes. I'm like, his detail, like his attention to detail. I could say, yeah, he's a creative artist and everything, but his attention to detail with stuff like that, like how on. And
Mhm.
did you see the rendition of? Did you see what that lantern was?
Yo,
It was the original. It was the Fiend mask. You know how like when he became the Fiend and he's kind of put Bray's face over the lantern. Now it's like this ultimate version of the Fiend put the Fiend's face over the lantern. So it's like okay.
yep.
I'm like,
Like creepy fiend. It
yeah,
sucks, but it sucks. We're never
it
gonna
does.
get to see it. But
No, no. And even that guy, even his friend said it sucks that I don't get to see him do this, but it's like I had the mold of his body, so I could do the costuming. His parents gave me his jacket that he purchased for this reason. He goes, he just has it up there as like I see him using that as a way of this is my work. This is what I can do, guys. In the movie field, hire me.
basically, yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
no, plus he also played the Fiend in Extreme
yeah,
Rules 2022,
exactly,
which confirmed
exactly.
it. Which he said that they were gonna hire an actor, but he was like, no. He's like, there's only one person I trust with the Fiend. I'm gonna do have my friend play the Fiend. When everyone
And,
thought that was Bo.
yeah, well, yeah, because if you look at it as you stand there, he's like it has to be someone who was kind of his same size.
Yeah.
His brother wasn't the same size at all. So
No.
his brother's a little lankier and a little thinner.
Hmm.
But so it comes to the time of the episode where I actually review give it a rating on a scale of 5. So so 0 being don't at all watch, 5 being the best. What would you give this, Dango?
4.5.
A 4.5? Okay. Okay. I'm right up there with you. I'll give it a 4.5, like a 4.75. So it's actually a good documentary. Like a lot of documentaries just tell you a brief history or just overlay everything. But this one, you actually got to go inside the mind of the
Oh
guy,
yeah.
guy of the actor, of the wrestler, of the artist. You guy kind of got to see behind the curtain, so to speak, of all
You
that.
got to see both sides of it. You got to see Taylor
Yes.
and you got to see Bo.
Yes.
I mean, you got to see Taylor,
Yes.
basically the sister and
Yes.
Bray.
Yeah, I love how it was mainly Taylor telling the story, and I'm like going, this makes sense. Like it could have just been a retrospective of Bray just talking with interviews, but it made sense to have his brother in there, someone he was very close to, who you could tell that they were that close. Like
And
you
I
could
liked
tell.
how WWE's footage that
Yeah.
they've never used they that WWE that Vince just had in the archives
Uh huh. Uh
that
huh.
they were just like never been touched. That it said straight up
Yes.
before the footage popped up.
Interviews that were never heard of before. Footage that was never you seen before. Stuff like that.
Yes, which is perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, which I like that they're doing this, which makes me believe that when they get to Netflix, their documentary game would go through the roof.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
they're going to kill it once they go
Yes.
fully Netflix.
I think this is one of the things that kind of drew Netflix to them too.
Oh
Well,
yeah,
it was these last these last couple documentaries they did was because they're like, oh, they're not just sports; they can actually tell a decent story and actually do a 2-hour production that is compelling, that is emotional, that is a lot of fun to watch and learn with.
so yeah, I give Bo, JoJo, even JoJo.
Yeah,
I don't know how she. I get it. I get why they do not want to. After watching that, you understand why he cannot go in this year
yeah, exactly.
because they cannot even hold back crying.
No, and you can see, and I bet you anything that Barry and Mike Rotunda are going to be horrible, horrible this year because of their emotions because of Bray.
Oh yeah,
And honestly, does he go in next year? Yeah, I see it. I see
yeah,
it
I could
next
see
year.
him. I could see it
What
next year.
I see
I
him
think
as a
Taylor
headliner next year.
introduced him.
Yeah, I see it as a headliner next year.
I think Taylor inducts the uncle and the son, the uncle and
Yeah.
the brother. It has
Yeah.
to be Taylor that
Yeah.
inducts them.
Even this year it would have to be, unless it was somebody who they had a big rivalry with who's still around.
Yes.
But I mean, besides that,
You're gonna give Taylor the biggest ovation in the whole night once he walks through that curtain.
Yep. Yeah. It's think of it as the way they did with Eddie Guerrero and his death with Ray. When they inducted Eddie, that big pop Vicky got. It was just, you could just see the look on her face, like she's like she was going to lose it right then and there. And I gotta give it to her for holding it together. So I can only imagine what Mike Rotundo would be like that night, knowing that his son's not there to celebrate this with him. So, but anyways, Dango, tell the folks at home where they could find you.
You can find me over on the @Outrage Control channel. You can also it's if you want to look up Outrage Control, it's under Outrage Control, and then the channel is actually called Outrage Zone. Or you can follow me and Kayla all on Outrage Control and Outrage Zone on social medias, on all social medias. You could also follow me at SwaggerBomb92.
All right, and all that information will be down in the description too, as well. So check them out. They do some great wrestling content. And with this being upcoming WrestleMania weekend, this boy right here is sure going to be busy. I have a feeling. So,
oh yeah, you're going to be busy as well.
I know. I know. I'm already on a couple other shows too with that. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. And anyways, you guys can always find me right here on the Binbuster channel, where I talk movies every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Central Time, 9 p.m. Eastern. I do my live stream. It's either a movie review or the director's cut, where I take you behind the scenes of movies that we love and give you a brief history about them and everything. We've had some great times on that show, and just be prepared for some lost episodes coming out soon. So, of that show. So right here on the channel. So if you haven't checked me out, I'm social media everywhere at the Binbuster. So check that out as well too. And I just want to say thank you, Dango, for coming online. If you guys haven't checked out this movie, I suggest you check it out. And remember, just because you're not a wrestling fan doesn't mean you can't enjoy a good documentary by a creative artist or creative of this. If you love biopics, watch this movie. It's going to be a tearjerker for you. And
even if you don't even know who the guy is, you'll figure
exactly.
You'll love it.
You'll learn a lot about him because, like I said, I did not know much about him, and I learned a lot. Anyways, so without further ado, I'll see you guys here next time, right here on Binbuster, where just remember, make it a movie night and dive right in.